Teeth of the Sea, live in session with Get With The Programme, another tune on the way, and indeed another tune as part of the final hour of tonight's programme. Get With The Programme is the title also of the new EP, which features various remixes of tunes from the Hive LP. How is it handing over control to other musicians to, in the delightful way, fiddle-faddle about with what you've done already?
It's quite exciting, really, because we've we usually kind of heard those tracks so many times that we can't think what else we'd do with them, really, and we're kind of so, like, it's nice to hear it from someone else's perspective and somebody can sort of wreak havoc with what we've done.
And yeah, with the three of you who form the core of Teeth of the Sea, obviously Kathy here tonight, and we'll talk about that contribution to the LP as well. You're all producers, you're all musicians, you've been working together really well for many years. Has that dynamic changed at all over the years in how you actually get things done and how you decide when things are ready?
I think definitely we've sort of streamlined our process and got a bit more productive in getting decisions made and all that kind of thing. But the core of it being, a completely collaborative thing where everyone brings something to the table and no one's in charge and we all kind of work to our own strengths and see how they mesh with each other's is still essentially the same, I think, really.
Gentle cooperation then, all the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's bad enough you've got, like, in a democracy in a band, we know quite often it won't work. That's why dictatorships quite often work within bands. At least for this particular band with a three-piece, as we say, we'll draw Kath into it in a short while. At least it's an odd number, so if you have a vote, then you can decide on something. But having three musicians and three producers must be a bloody nightmare.
We're all, like, quite cocky fellas. Right. So, like, if somebody, meaning if an idea isn't working, it's somebody's idea, none of us are going to get really hurt feelings about it. We'll just sort of shrug our shoulders because we've all got big enough egos to sort of deal with it, I think.
So with that in mind, when you were making Butterfly House, at what point did you think, well, this needs something else? And Kath came into the picture, and it was, as we heard earlier, to great effect as well. How did that happen?
Well, originally it was me that was doing the vocals on this track. Completely different melody and completely different lyrics, and it just wasn't working at all. It just sounded bad. And Kath immediately sprung to mind. Like, we didn't want to ditch the tune, and it seemed for a little while like we were going to leave it off the album because it just wasn't working at all. So we approached Kath, and she completely transformed it with her contribution, and it became this fantastic track that we're massively proud of now, and is a real centre point on the album.
I've always been a fan of Kath's voice anyway, right from sort of decades gone. And it's always been one of her favourite singer of mine, and it was like she'd sung on our last record as well, on Wraith. So it was just kind of almost like the own,
What did you do with Butterfly House then, Kath? What did you do with it?
I wrote a bunch of lyrics and a completely different song to the one I gave in to Teeth of the Sea, and then thought, no, that's not really right, and wrote Butterfly House, wrote the words and the tune to that. And had about 2 minutes before I had to record it and send it to them. So I was busy cancelling all sorts of stuff. People were sort of talking nonsense to me, and I was like, somebody who wanted to go on a date told me that they're a creative, and at that point I was like, shit, I'm supposed to be doing something creative. I'm going to go home and do that.
You got to get your priorities right, haven't you? I tell you what made me laugh as well. It was in one of your interviews. It was a bit of a with nail and eye moment where you said they obviously came out with that famous quote. We went on holiday by accident, and just to draw a comparison, you say we made an uplifting album by accident. I mean, did you set out to make something really kind of morose?
Menacing sometimes.
Menacing, not morose, but failed miserably.
I don't think we've ever really set out to make menacing music, but it very often has sort of transpired that way. So it was quite a surprise when suddenly we're like, oh, this is quite nice,
I think we've had like dystopian thrown at us a lot. Maybe we're just trying to rebel against that, trying to be a bit less dystopian this time around. But
right.
It's just usually if you try and do anything deliberate, it just backfires horribly. We'll just make the most morose dystopian record that anyone's ever made.
But the thing is, obviously, I mean, if you are looking to do kind of take the sci-fi element and also doing soundtracks and stuff, it's quite a menacing scenario that you're in already. I mean, you don't want to. We do like to be beside the seaside whilst you've got a rocket flying around Mars, do you really? It's not that appropriate. So I suppose menacing is going to do the job.
I mean, you haven't heard our cover of we do like to be beside the seaside.
It's actually Mrs. Mills is a big influence on our next record.
Oh,
You can have an
amazing.
exclusive on that one.
Fabulous, thank you.
Well, I know 3 of the tunes on the LP were part of a space travel project, and they are absolutely, and it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful record as well. It should be
Thank you.
pointed out. It does, and I was also interested that. Until I read about Orange Juice Jones, The Rain being a sort of reference in Power Horse, I went back to listen, and of course it's there, and it is there, but then it could have said, Knees Up Mother Brown is reference here, and I go, oh, so it is. You're absolutely right.
That's what you get for being a musicologist, kid. You can spot these things that other people can't. It's incredible.
I just get easily led towards them as well, but yeah, it's there. But it brings you seem to be, and a lot of musicians are, just voracious listeners and watchers of stuff, and that feeds into whatever it is you end up doing. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always lived in houses with all the floors are groaning under the weight of books and records, and, we're always constantly excited by new stuff. We're always trying to tell each other about whatever new thing we've checked out, be it like TV shows, films, music, whatever. And the last thing we'd ever want to be is somebody who's like jaded about anything or sort of harken back to anything. We always keep moving forward and always keep finding whatever the maddest new stuff we can lay our hands on is. So, and hopefully that's going to continue.
Absolutely. More power to you for that. What's the next tune you want to play?
It's called
go on.
I was going to say it's called Apollo. Apollo.
Here we go. Teeth of the Sea and Apollo.